That's TV.
So we're live? We're live. All right. So before we get started here, I'm going to give just 1 second. Do we have a number on how many people are logged in right now, John?
67.
What is it?
67.
67? My favorite number. That's awesome. This must be the time to start. All right. So Candy and Jesse, and this is really awkward because we shouldn't have like one mega couch, but we're here for about 1 hour tonight, and what we're going to do is we are going to, I'm going to fill 3 to 4 minutes while people are still rolling in here. But then what we're going to do is you can type in a question. And if you type in a question through the website and send an email, do you have instructions on where to send that email?
No, they can just fill out a form and they press the button and it pops up on my phone or Candy's phone.
So the form should be online and we'll figure it out, and then it pops up on Jesse's and Candy's phones.
Right.
And so that's the plan. So if you want to ask a question, this is the awesome moment to do that. Before we get started though, I just want to say welcome. We're so glad you're here. This is our third town hall.
It's my first.
No, you did one more.
Second. Okay, yeah.
You did the second one. This is our third town hall since we did this pandemic. Pandemic.
What's in that cup?
Trademark. I'm going to trademark pandemic or whatever.
Pandemic?
I don't know what that. I'm going to figure this out because if you wrote a book with that as the title and it even had no content in it,
right,
you're going to make money.
Right.
All right, I'm going to get rid of the debt here at SCPC myself with a book like that.
Pandemic?
Pandemic.
I like it.
I think we got it. All right, so well, welcome to our town hall, or as some people call it, date night, depending on if you are alone or watching right now. But we're going to go for about an hour here. And I thought what I'd do for the first couple minutes is just give some content to give people some updates on what's going on in the life of SCPC today. I've made jokes in the past that our long-range planning goes out 72 hours. And it's getting to the point now where our long-range planning is going out weeks. We're starting to get a sense of what life is going to look like. We're starting to get a sense of how we need to operate so that we can find ways to thrive and fulfill our mission, even in the middle of all these things. And so I'm just going to go through a quick list here and give you a few updates on some of the things that we're doing here at the church. And then I'll have you two jump in with anything you want to add to that, if that's okay. And then we'll start getting to the questions.
Sounds good. They're already coming in.
And there's no particular order to this. But I want to give you just a couple ideas of what we're doing. First is we are super committed and not going to stop with awesome online worship, possibly ever. So that's a new normal. And so for those that are connecting with our church through online worship, that's going to keep going. And we're going to even more impressively, in a way, continue to improve and do things in creative ways to make our online experience feel dynamic and exciting so that you can feel connected to the church. And so we're building that while simultaneously finding ways to stay connected and get people re-engaged in a physical way here. And so we've got both ends of the spectrum that we're doing. We've got this We Church thing. As I sit here, it's still light out. Actually, the first one we did here was dark. So things are changing. But right outside over here is the tents where we have We Church. We've transitioned it from inside classrooms to now outside on the patio, and we still have the backyard We Churches that are going. We know the vast majority of people are still streaming online, but we know that every week we're going to have to transition and flex with whatever the virus is doing. And so stay tuned for all that, but we're excited to see where all that's going because we're consistently moving forward in terms of finding a way to regather safely. It takes time. Thankfully, we haven't had to do a lot of this and then that and then this and then that, but we're gradually moving forward. And if there's a way where you can feel more connected in that, just let us know. The weekly rhythm, we didn't have really a weekly email before this whole thing went down. And now our website is live and active. You get a rhythm email every single week. And the fact that so many of you are connecting on this says that we're finding really effective ways of communicating with our congregation in the middle of this. So those are some of the cool things that are going on that front. We have a congregational meeting on Sunday. And one of the main purposes of this gathering tonight is we know that the meeting on Sunday is not going to be the ideal way to have a conversation the way we normally would with a congregational meeting. It's going to be via Zoom. We need folks to register for that in advance if possible, and so you'll find a way to do that on the website. You can also do it before the meeting, but we want you to register for the town hall, and it's going to be a little weird, but it'll be cool. You log in and it'll feel like a Zoom call. It'll be on Zoom, and whenever there's a vote, there will be a pop-up screen screen, and you have to vote with your little cursor there or your finger if you're on an iPad or an iPhone.
They'll need to have their own devices.
You'll need to have your own device, because if you and a person that you're with are sharing one, you won't be able to have 2 votes. And so we encourage everyone to register for the meeting independently, vote on their own, and then that'll be the way that we get through that meeting. It's new for us, but we had to make a decision, and our decision is if we don't do this, if we wait to have a congregational meeting till we can gather safely, not only do we not know when that'll be, but also we won't have a full slate of elders until we do that. And so we felt like it was critical to get this done. Our nominating committee has been working hard, and you received in a packet earlier this week a lot of those details. And so that's coming up this Sunday, and we're going to start getting through some of the weeds on questions and details there. A couple more important things that are really important to tell you. On June 30th, our session passed a budget. We knew that when the pandemic hit, that we needed to be cautious and careful in how we planned for the future. We were estimating, and I think the budget reflected this, that we estimated a reduction in giving in 2020, 2021 that required us to make some budget shifts that were really important. And we're thankful that we did not have to cut any mission giving. And we're thankful that we were able to keep a lot of our programs intact. And in addition to all that, we have a lot of spending we need to make on technological and campus improvements that we're in the middle of in order to reopen safely. So there's a lot of things we're investing in heavily right now. But 3 very tough things that were just painful for us as a staff team is we did have to make staffing reductions. And in our particular case, the 3 staff members that are no longer a part of our team officially are Victor de la Cruz, so the choir and bell choir. We're going to have to find a new way to operate in a new way moving forward. Also, our communications person, Janet Good, which is very tough because she's been with our church for over a decade and is incredibly amazing, as well as Ellery Carlson, who was our main leader for junior high and high school ministries. And we've had to move our Casey Myers into that role primarily, so he's the one taking on that. Jen Atwood is actually handling more of the communication side of things. And on the choir and bell choir things, we don't yet have a plan for that, except I was on Zoom calls with the whole choir and the bell choir over this last month, and you'll never find more creative and excited people to find a way to, they were even recommending doing bells out on the patio and recording it and then playing the video. So we're going to find really exciting ways to start integrating more of those pieces into worship, even if we can't gather physically. But, those are 3 really big changes that are hitting our church that impact us in a heavy way. And just like every other business, it seems like, and every other church that I've talked to, we're not immune from the effects of this pandemic, not only just financially, but also socially. Thank God I don't know of anyone within our congregation who's died of COVID, although we have had deaths during this. And in fact, I was at a funeral just this last weekend. And so this is a tough season, but we're finding a way to move forward. And I just want to give you a couple more updates before we go to the questions. Actually, I'll just stop because the questions may cover things. Questions may cover things, and I don't want to jump too far. But I will say, I guess, this. The preschool, the good news is we have found a way to open it. It turns out that it's legal. Newsom's order not to open doesn't include our preschool. So now that it's legal to do so, and we think that we can do it safely, if we get enough registrations to open in fall and we can get the staffing in place, we hope to be able to open on September 1st. And so if you know of anyone who would be interested, you can go to the church's website or to losolas.com.
LosOlasChurch.com, all one word.
LosOlasChurch.com.
Right.
And find out more about the preschool that's coming. Even before the pandemic, we were in the middle of a lot of changes to the preschool that were exciting and awesome. And one of the changes was renaming it. It didn't really have a name before. It was just San Clemente Presbyterian Church Preschool. Not great for branding. Kind of a mouthful. It's like 400 characters. And so Los Olas just means waves, the waves. And so we're trying to find a creative way forward with that. So that's coming. Another big thing that's important to let you know about is Hispanic ministries. So we know that Juan Bonilla, his last day was 6:30, and we're working with our Hispanic ministry leaders right now to find out what that future is going to be. I have to ask for your prayers for that. It's really tough. Without a leader in place, you all know, many of you know, how difficult it is with an interim pastor. And many of you know how difficult it is between saying goodbye to a pastor and then before the interim pastor even comes. You know what I mean? There's a brutal period that's difficult. And in that particular congregation, in that particular group of folks, transitions during a pandemic like this are incredibly painful. And so hopefully within the next few days, within the next few weeks, we'll be solidifying our plans for how we're going to move forward there. They still have been having a chapel service, or a service in the chapel that's coterminous or at the same time as our English service, but we're going to still find more and more ways to integrate our as brothers and sisters in Christ and connect more. So you may be seeing more and more integration of that moving forward because of how challenging it is to have a separate service in the middle of these times. Those are just some of the big updates. Should we do questions?
We can. Let's do it. Well, okay. So you actually hit one of the questions that came in from Sandy Wright about what's going on with the preschool temporarily. I think you did. We can.
So
you wanna
Sandy,
riff on that?
hi. So glad you're here. I actually talked to you, like Tuesday? One of the things that's really exciting is we have something called our Preschool Vision Team, which Sandy will be a part of, which I'm pumped about. And the Preschool Vision Team is a group of people that are going to be plotting the future, making recommendations to the session on how to move forward with the preschool. This year, the way we're approaching it is, we're going to do whatever we can as a ministry to our families to provide preschool for folks that want it and need it. That's our goal, while simultaneously putting together this team whose job is to bring oversight, leadership, and vision to where the preschool is going to go. And so there's some great people that are going to be a part of that, and we're pumped about it. But you all know that this is a really bad year for schools. That's an understatement. You know, I've got my little kids, and every single day I just look at them and I look at my wife and I go, how many days left until preschool opens? You know, I love them, but only 45 days more. You know, and so not quite, not true.
Hey,
but
Jesse, is it Las Olas School or LasOlasChurch.com?
It's LasOlasSchool.com.
You said church.
Did I say church?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
LasOlasSchool.com.
Wow, that was a total slip. Thanks for correcting me. No, it's LasOlasSchool.
that's because now we got like scpc.church. And
I know.
We
so
got
since
that
bringing Jesse on here, like this guy has been driving Candy wild because
Lord have mercy.
so Candy's strengths are in speaking the truth, relational connections, dynamic energy and moving projects forward, etc. But one of the ones that isn't the case is technology. And so the friction that's developing here is actually...
There's no friction.
No, I'm using that word. They're not. It's been entertaining, to say the least.
There is entertainment.
There's
yes.
entertainment all the time.
Right.
Entertaining, because one of the things that was a blessing, Jesse came in like 10 days or so before the pandemic hit, and just been instrumental in helping us not only on the financial side to get everything as clear and moving forward as possible, but also on the technology side.
Yeah,
and
we've had a tech-demic as well as a pandemic.
Yeah, we have had a tech. And Kate, my wife, wants to know why this Pastor Candy is texting me at all hours of the night now too.
She's good at texting. You're a pro texter.
I am a communicator, my friend. I'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
So, but anyway, don't ever talk to Candy about Google Docs.
She's the master now. She can teach a class on it now.
Anyway, so that's, I don't even know where we were. Sandy Wright on preschool.
Yes.
We're moving forward with that. I hope that answered your question, Sandy.
You might want to talk about, or I could talk about it, but you can go on the website and learn a little bit more. But it's a scaled back version, obviously, of what the preschool was before. And it's an interim model. There's going to be 3 classes, a 2 and 3 year old, a 3 and 4 year old, and then I want to call it a pre-K. What do you call it? It's the 5-year-old
Used to be
class.
taught. Oh, the older.
Pre-K. I think pre-K.
It is
transitional kindergarten.
Yeah,
TK,
transitional.
right?
Yeah, TK is what it is. And I can tell you that the work with the finance committee and in context of the budget really put some requirements on the team that's looking at this interim preschool regarding enrollment before we pull the trigger on this. And I'm actually happy to say, I think as of today, and the website only went live maybe 4 days ago.
4 days ago.
I want to say, and I may be underestimating, I think it's at least 15 enrollments that we have so far, and we only have room for 25. So it's like more than half filled in 4 days, which is kind of what we expected. But it is a smaller program. It's a smaller program intentionally, but it's also designed to be a ministry to the community, because we know that there are parents that need,
But part of the reason why it's smaller is because, have you seen the list of rules we're going to have to follow to do it safely? I mean, there's limits on how many students. One classroom can't have any interaction with another classroom. We're taking their temperatures on the way in, I actually think we should have done that before, because they're sick little creatures most of the time. But anyway, we're going to have a lot of work to do, and that'll be a big project this year. But we're hoping the ministry of the preschool keeps all those families connected. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to be good.
Right.
And it's important.
Agree.
So what's our next question?
Well, here's a question on the other end of the spectrum. That's the young families and small children. Doug Green is asking a question. He's saying he's pleased that we're reaching out to younger members and including programs to provide opportunities for children. What are your thoughts related to providing additional opportunities and support for the older members of the congregation? Doug, that's a great question, and we're doing a lot on that front. We have reorganized the deacons into care ministry, and there's 2 or 3 care teams that specifically are designated to work on care for our older members. And so those are going to be ramping up pretty significantly. We're going to be connecting more with them. Our connecting system that we put together for the COVID-19 period, which now is going a lot longer than we anticipated, we're retooling that connecting system so that literally our folks will have someone connecting with them all through the year. For the coming years, there'll always be that. A database system is being put in place so that we have information that is critical to caring for our older members, like next of kin, who to call if we can't get a hold of the person, all sorts of ways that we're trying to connect. A database that also will keep a little history so we know what's going on in our older members' lives and how we can best support them. We also have some really creative, technical people who are thinking about ways to connect our older members technically. We've talked about ways of getting some of our more isolated members devices that are very easy. Literally, they could open it up, push a button, and they'd be connected to some kind of a program for older citizens or for our community of faith. Ways of streaming where they don't have to know how to take their iPhone and mirror it or something, but it would be a button they push and bam, they're in worship with us.
That's right.
So we've got some technical people working on some of those ideas, how we might deliver to people, just like we've been delivering groceries to people at risk. We would deliver devices to people that would help them connect in this more technological time we're in. So there's a lot of things going on for our older members in our congregation.
Well, and we should also say that for a lot of our older members, they are also not super excited about coming out right now.
That's right. They're pretty reserved.
We're not investing incredible energy in creating programming for folks that are in a more vulnerable demographic for 2 reasons. One, we have a decline in people that want to participate from that demographic for safety reasons, which we totally understand. And the second one is we can only do programs that we think will be safe. And so our approach has been and continues to be like the living room. So we have worship experiences every night. We still have the Bible studies that the 2 of you are leading on Tuesday, Thursday.
The
patio after service.
And by the way, our own Bob, 102 years old, has been zooming into the patio on Sundays.
So Bob Hayden's been
coming in.
Bob, if you're watching right now, you are an inspiration to us.
You are our hero, Bob.
You are an inspiration. I'm just starting this experiment of gathering people for hikes and to play golf and to go to the beach. And today we had like 8 hikers on that hike in the back of Talega today, and that was really fun to see those folks and really enjoyed that. Larry Thomas showed up 2 minutes late, and you should have seen that guy huffing and puffing to catch up to us. He did great. So he got twice the workout the rest of us did. There's creative opportunities, but we have to be very honest and say we are not going to be doing an insane amount of programming over the next few months. We don't anticipate that the virus is going away anytime soon. And that's a hard reality. And nowadays we all look at each other and realize Christmas will be here before we know it. You know what I mean? It happened in March. School shut down for 2 weeks and we were like, well, we'll be back in 2 weeks, right? Like Capo didn't even, everything just kind of was a very, 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 very slow coming to grips with what was happening as we're figuring it out. And the status of the day for most churches, including us today, is that we don't expect to return to any sense of normal in the fall, and maybe for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
So what that means for us is we're going to have to find creative and new ways to meet the needs of the moment all the time. And we're trying our best to do what that is today. We're reinventing what it is to do the church. The fact that we're doing a town hall like this, we're staring at a camera right now, and all I can see is Colin Henry, who's sitting here. I know. What's up, Colin? Controlling a camera here. These are just very weird times, and I'm using that question as a way to talk about the big picture. But the big picture is that we'll gradually start ramping up the We Church as we're able to do it safely. There's probably going to be an emphasis on outdoor worship over indoor worship in the coming weeks and months. But also our budget and our priorities right now reflect trying to build a church set of ministries and fulfill a mission that doesn't require us to meet physically in person as much, especially indoors.
Yep. Well, and if I can just say one thing to encourage all of our members that they can be a part of keeping our older members connected as well as any members. It's been very heartening as I've been calling people and setting up this system, connecting system. How many times I've called someone and they said, you know what, so-and-so checks on me all the time.
That's awesome.
So it's an organic community. A lot of the members of our congregation have adopted someone that they just regularly check on. They buy groceries for them. They visit them. In a couple of cases, they were the ones who went into their home and got them hooked up for Sunday morning worship. It was very heartening to hear that the community of faith is being the community of faith by taking care of people. So what I would say to you is if someone comes to mind and you wonder how they're doing, pick up the phone and call them.
Right.
Well, if you have an idea that you'd like for us to do, let us know. We're wide open, and we're in touch with a lot of other churches and figuring out what they're doing. We've gotten consistent feedback that SCPC is crushing it. I'm just being honest. Like, I hear it from a lot of you all that I know reach out, and if we're not doing something well, we still want to know so that we can do better. We had some not hiccups, but we had challenges early on. And we communicated this in previous town hall meetings, that we had to close things down a lot faster than other places might have, because we had a tighter cash position that necessitated swifter action. But the timing of it at the time was difficult because a lot of folks were still wrapping their minds around what the pandemic might be. And not that this is good or bad, but things did play out the way we planned for, in that this virus is still with us and schools aren't really opening here in fall. So this has been a really challenging season for the church. Deeply thankful that giving is, it's still trending less than it was pre-COVID, don't get me wrong, but our congregation is engaged. The fact that right now there's like all these people that are watching right now, and that our services are connecting with so many people, and there's so many other ministries happening all around this church, is evidence like nothing's taking this beast down. Like, our church is going to move in and through COVID in such a way where I really, really believe that we're positioning ourselves to make a huge kingdom impact, not only in the middle of this, but especially coming out of it, because we're flexible, we're dynamic, we're fiscally responsible, we're excited, we're hungry for what we can do now. You know what I mean? Like, so all that's really good. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You're excited. Let me just hit a question from Charles Hightower that's just a kind of a logistical question about the materials for the congregational meeting. So there was a link in the rhythm that went out today. If you missed that, or you didn't get the rhythm, or for any other reason, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Just, you can send me an email, and I'll make sure you get the materials. That's the easiest way to do it.
But it was a link in the rhythm.
It was a link in the rhythm that you had to click on, and it would have downloaded a PDF file.
It's like a 20-page document or something.
Yeah, it's like a 20-page document that has all the materials in it. If you didn't get that for any reason, just email me and I'll get it to you.
And it'll be on the website too.
It will be.
So on Sunday when you log in, there will be a way to register and to log in, but also a link to the packet as well, right next to that. And so that's a great question, John.
I think there's a button at the bottom tonight too that Jen said they could just click on tonight and register for the congregational meeting.
Sweet.
At the bottom of this, where they're watching now, there should be.
This is maybe a good time to pause and say, the three of us pastors, we're all very thankful that we have a community to work with together, the three of us. but the staff here at the church is absolutely insanely amazing. Throughout this whole crisis, so many of them have made so many sacrifices to do whatever it takes for the sake of the church. And you're even looking at people right now that are up here working throughout this town hall and all over the place. We're just so humbled and thankful for them. And I know we've gotten your feedback on that too. They're probably not watching this.
Staff and volunteers too.
And volunteers.
Volunteers that have really stepped up and, done what needed to be done. Really amazing.
Yeah.
Let's keep going here.
All right. There was another question about the size of our current membership. And I can actually take this because I think some of you have been reading the congregational meeting materials in advance. I've been getting some emails here and there about financial questions and those kinds of things, and I'm happy to answer those in advance. But the question is, what's our current membership and what has the trend been over the last 5 years? I can tell you, I looked at the forms that this church reported to the presbytery at the end of last year. So we'll do it again at the end of this year, of 2020. And it was exactly 1,000. It was 982. And then there was 40 additions and 20 subtractions or 22 subtractions.
We actually had a new member class I don't think we even followed through on the day we shut down.
Yeah.
15th of March.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did follow up with them.
So the trend, at least in the past couple years, has been up. There was a period of time, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where I think there was a trend down, and that, Ken, you could probably speak to that. But
that was when you were here, right?
Yeah, it was because I came.
She's weathered all the storms, right? She's
well, you know what actually happened,
for
Jesse, and I think Chris knows this too, and you've been in other churches, you know this happens.
Yeah.
Roles get untended.
Yep.
So at one point, we were registered as having 1,500 members.
Right.
Well, 2 years after that, we looked at those roles and we took off about 250 members.
Yeah.
This two had been gone for years.
Yep.
So we were down to 12, I think.
It's like voting in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Vote often, vote right away, vote often.
Right.
And then again, a couple years later, we did it again where we kind of just looked at it and saw there had been a lot of moves. We were down to about 1,100 that year. And then we did lose a couple of hundred with some changes in church structure and what leadership and what we did. So we've been holding steady around 1,000. So even though we probably dipped below that, we added, I think, 13 at the last one. I think we've added about 15 at the last 2 or 3. So yeah, I think we're going to start seeing that.
So the big picture on membership is it's not having any significant ups or downs right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a miracle.
Amazing.
Given how many changes this church has been going through.
Yeah.
My hope and expectation is that we won't make any real membership changes to our congregation until we're able to gather again physically, unless we somehow start having virtual membership classes and all that, which we could.
Why wouldn't we do that?
We could do that.
We
could totally do that.
Yeah.
All right, we just committed to online.
Okay, this email just came in, and I think it has to do with the fact that we just plugged the preschool website a little while ago, because we just got one more registration to the preschool just now as we were talking. So
that's good.
That's encouraging too.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's filling up. That's
They
filling
found out
good.
that it's limited spots.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Let's see. There's one question here from.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
There's one super important announcement that I forgot to mention.
Okay.
Which is your sabbatical. So prior to COVID, the plans for Pastor Candy's sabbatical were to be over this summer, right?
May, June, July.
May, June, July, and that obviously never materialized for a million reasons. And I know you're still trying to get money back for all that. And so the new sabbatical is happening when? Tell us about it.
Actually, very soon, with the encouragement of the other pastors and other lay leaders, I will be taking my sabbatical beginning August 15th in just 3 weeks.
Whoa.
We'll be gone for 3 months into the middle of November, maybe the end of November.
What are you going to do on sabbatical?
I am going to rest a lot, but I also am going to try to connect virtually with the people that I should have visited. My plans were for some pretty significant international travel in May, June, and July. In fact, I'd be in Africa right now if that had been happening. But I will go somewhere where I have the capacity to connect with those people virtually and have the conversations that I wanted to and do the writing that I wanted to around them. They were all people that I've ministered to with in this country, but are from other countries. And so I want to talk to them and learn about that intracultural crossover in ministry and how that works and how it doesn't work. And I think it's a very timely conversation to have. I was hoping to visit them in their countries and do that, but now I'll be virtually visiting with them, writing some of that up, reflecting on that. And I'll be doing some oil painting and some just chilling and reading, and I've got a little writing project I'm working on. So hoping to get away a good chunk of the time, but also Drew and I'll be doing some California bucket list trips, places we've wanted to visit and go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm very excited, and really excited because the good news is the lay leadership is strong for care and adult ministries. And even the last 2 weeks, I've had lots of confirmation of leadership stepping up to make sure that things are tended well while I'm gone. And so I'm very grateful to God and to you folks for supporting that.
We're excited for you. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we won't bug you.
I'm not going to let you bug me.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Especially you.
We're putting a tracker on our car, and
just don't change the email while
I'm going to
gone.
set an auto text message every night at 11:30 p.m.
Yeah, just don't change the email again while I'm gone.
Can you answer some questions about Google Docs for me?
send a technical question every day to Candy on Sabbatical.
Right. That's what we should do. Is we should encourage people to send you technical questions while you're on
sabbatical.
sabbatical.
Do you see what I'm working with?
So IT support during sabbatical. All right,
that's awesome.
Jesse, I'll ask you this one because I see it popping up on the screen here.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about the preschool.
So this one says, this is from Vi Jansen.
Yep.
Or Violet33.
Mm-hmm.
How were the decisions made to close the preschool and eliminate certain staff positions? And who was included in those decisions? Can you describe the process of what that looked like?
Yeah, and it was a fairly extensive process. What we started with was March 15th. I think it was a Thursday, and I remember it vividly. And the orders came down from the governor's office that schools were closing, and so we made an immediate decision to kind of temporarily furlough the staff, and then we convened a meeting with the session. The session created. I would call it an emergency task force. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was a group of session members that were tasked with going off and looking at the preschool holistically, financially, and from the impact of the regulatory concerns. And so they made some decisions to keep the teachers on staff for a little while longer, and then it looked like this was going to be extended for a much longer time, and that's where we made the decision, which at the time seemed a little bit controversial by way of the reactions that we got. In my opinion, looking back, it actually had a lot of foresight to it. But the commitment that we made, I think, is the most important thing. The commitment that we made was, as soon as it's safe, as soon as it's legal, as soon as it's financially viable, we are going to make every effort to restart this, not just because it's a business of the church, but because it's an important ministry of this church and an important ministry to this community. And that's where I'm really happy where we are now, because that's exactly what we're doing. And the commitments that we made to the teachers, many have been with the preschool, with the church for a really long time, was you'll be the first phone calls that we make. And they were the first phone calls that we made. Now, we're not going to have a full set of classes, so we don't have the full set of spots to invite all the teachers back, but we called all of the tenured teachers that we had spots for initially to actually fill those positions as we're doing this interim model. So, I think we, personally, I think we did it right, and I know it felt hard, and it was, emotional, but it was the right decision to do, and now we're in a really good position to start building back and thinking of it as a ministry like it is, and rethinking how we do it based on the needs that are changing among the parents in the community. So I hope that's a good enough answer, yeah.
Yeah, and as I'm reading it, one of the things that's important to know is, myself as head of staff, I'm ultimately responsible for a lot of the staffing decisions here, or all the staffing decisions. But at the same time, the session is responsible as well. And we were the ones who passed a motion as a session appointing a task force to execute these decisions and to make those decisions. So all that was done through a very careful process of teams of people that met like for, I don't even know how many hours, but it was a painstaking, difficult work. And that the results of that task force were brought back to the team as well, the whole session. When it came to the last round of decision making on staffing and budgets and all that, we did multiple reads as a session of a draft budget that the finance team and the human resources team had spent a month plus working on. And so I guess what I'm trying to emphasize with all this is one of the hallmarks of a Presbyterian church is that we actually have a process for how we do it, which is very important in order to have transparency and accountability. And we think we've been doing that as well as we possibly can during a pandemic. But I can tell you on behalf of the session, just because someone's responsible for making decisions doesn't mean any of those decisions are fun or easy. And it was agonizing for us as a session. I know sitting around either on the Zoom calls, we tried one session meeting in person, and that was challenging with half online and half not, so we're experimenting there. It was really hard. It was really hard, and I remember even just kind of being tearful leaving some of those meetings knowing the impacts that some of the decisions are having. And it's tough. Like I put in my congregational letter that this is a season where there's extreme loss in the middle of this pandemic. Obviously, I really do believe the church is going to come out strong, and I think God is working in this in powerful ways. But at the same time, it's not just losing original sabbatical plans, or it's not just, in your case, showing up and never being able to see anybody and then having to go through Hell Week.
Right.
Upon arriving. Yeah. And in my case, getting a really fun year here, but no joke, 13 months into my arrival here at SCPC is when all this started to happen. And that's just shallow compared to the actual life impacts that this is having for so many, many, many people.
Yep.
And so we feel that loss even as we're trying to find a way forward. And part of the goal of the church is to find a way to care for people in the midst of that pain. And it's real. So I just want to acknowledge that and say that out loud, because it's not just assumed around here. We really know.
There's a question here for you, Candy, that just popped up. It says, Candy mentioned this to me, so I'm wondering, have you updated the charge for our new deacons?
Updated the charge.
Oh, she probably just means you're not the cookie and candy people, and more of the...
Well, the session voted actually last October, I believe, September or October of last fall, before the pandemic, that the deacons were going to return to the primary traditional role of care for the congregation. So in the past, they had been moved to what was called engagement. And so they did a lot with members class, with welcoming people on the patio. Cafe Clemente was their main thing. So they were repositioned to care ministries last fall. It was approved by the session to do that. So we began immediately working on recruiting more deacons, because that's a much larger task. So we came up with a lot of people who were already doing care ministries. So for instance, our Grief Share leaders who lead the Grief Share program, 4 of them, are going to be nominated have been nominated and will be.
We have like 12 deacons nominated.
We have 12 new deacons coming on, in addition to the 8 that are already there. So we'll have 20 deacons this year. We're hoping to add additional deacons next year. So the charge now is, if you remember, 2-3 years ago, we put together 10 care teams that were led by volunteers to try to do the care ministries of the church, all volunteer. And so a deacon will be responsible for each of those care teams, along with other lay people who are involved. So, for instance, Dwayne and Sally Henry do mental health ministry. That's one of our care teams. But Hillary Peter is a person who's a deacon who will work alongside Sally and Dwayne to do that. So
cool.
we've got a whole new list of deacons, and they are also going to be responsible for our connecting ministry.
And I would say one of the things that happened when I got here is there was a sense of dissatisfaction among the deacons, that they were primarily the patio fellowship crew, and they were more disconnected from the care side. So when I got here, we did some listening sessions, and then we passed a motion at a meeting collapsing the care ministry as a separate committee into the deacons, with the eventual next move of then helping create more of a charter or a vibe for the deacons of a caring ministry.
Yeah.
And we're now in the execution phase of that with these nominees and where all that's going, so we're pumped.
And what's really cool is as we surveyed these new deacons and found out where kind of their passion was in care ministries, it just fit perfectly with the care teams that we have, the needs that we had. Even today I had another conversation with another person who's coming on as a deacon who just immediately just got excited, enthusiastic, talking about the place that she wants to fit into the new deacon, Board of Deacons and Care. So it's really God's hand in it, I think, is proven by the way people are stepping up to things. Not that I'm asking them, please, will you do this? Please, please. They're
Folks
saying,
rarely say no to you, but...
Well, they do.
Let me ask this question of Jesse.
Yes.
It says, it looks like the preschool programs are full day. Will we have any traditional half-day programs?
Yeah, lots of questions about the preschool. That's good, though. That's good.
Not surprised, it is good.
Yeah. So the short answer is, in the short term, no, we won't have any traditional half-day programs. And again, that's part of our ability to only provide a limited number, and the desire, based on the feedback that we've garnered, to make this a ministry. Which seems like primarily to working parents, but by full-time, full day rather, it's 8:30 to 3:30. We do have some 2-day-a-week slots, and we have some 3-day-a-week slots, and we have some 5-day-a-week slots, right? So, but it is just an 8:30 to 3:30 program for now. For now.
And again, the preschool vision team is going to be responsible for thinking about what it's going to be in the future.
Right.
And so we're going to allow that team to start its work and do that work. The way I always thought about it, because we were having to open with limited enrollment for the preschool.
Yep.
So rather than having 90 or 100 plus kids, we're down in the 20s right now. And so what that means is you can't have kids on campus for 3 hours and break even.
Right.
Because one of our rules for the preschool and working with our elected leaders was if we were going to open the preschool, we had to open it in such a way where it didn't lose money. And we found that if you had the half-day programs, it was nearly impossible to do that.
With a small enrollment size.
With a small enrollment.
Yeah.
So you might be able to change that moving forward.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see where all that goes.
Yep.
All right. Golf and wine too.
Howard.
I'll ask it. At the town hall meeting, how will the people in the tent on campus connect? I'm guessing,
He means at the
for Sunday.
meeting. He's talking
Yeah,
about
for Sunday.
congregational meeting.
All right, so if you're a We Church person,
Yep.
i.e. you're in a backyard or you're on campus, and you want to be a part of the congregational meeting, which I know you do, you're going to have to bring your own phone or laptop or stay home for this particular weekend. So you can come to We Church and you can be watching the screens and singing in your mask and doing your thing, but then you're going to have to whip out your phone and do the congregational meeting that way if you want to stay here and do it.
Yep.
You can connect to our Wi-Fi for that. We already checked with our tech people to make sure that that's a possibility. And so don't be streaming too much Netflix during the congregational meeting, Howard. But yeah, it's possible to pull it off. So hopefully.
And we've got volunteers on the campus on the patio that will help people get connected if they have trouble.
Yeah. And we're going to have to, I'm just confessing this to you. There's going to be issues. Most likely, because it's not going to be perfect, and we know it's not. We're just doing the best that we can. So we continue to ask for your grace. I'm thankful that that's one of the primary hallmarks of what this church is all about. We're doing everything in our power to do things as well as we can, but in this new day and age, things are messier. We're pretty confident we'll be able to do it well, not only beyond just having quorum and being able to log in, but we know that even if we just have a login for Zoom of a couple, 6 people trying to do a conversation together, oh, I'm late, or where's this, or what's happening, it just happens. And so our encouragement to you for the congregational meeting is if you really take that seriously, and we hope that you do, that you'll register in advance. You'll go to our website and find the packet and actually read through it in advance, that you'll know how to use Zoom and be logging on nice and early in order to have time to do that. Because if you're the kind of person for whom that doesn't come easy, it'll take you a little longer. And so be prepared to do that. And we'll make it happen.
Yep.
What do we got here?
There'll be issues. There will be hiccups here and there, but Nothing insurmountable.
Could I ask a question of you guys?
Sure.
All right, so this isn't like planned or anything.
Obviously.
I know, right?
Uh-oh, be careful.
Well, we can ask one of him then when he's done.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
good
fair.
point. We can gang up on him
Two.
too. Right.
What's something during this pandemic where you felt lost the most? And something in this pandemic where you've really sensed that God's doing something powerful in the church for the future?
Oh, man.
It doesn't just have to be for us here at this church, because I mean, even just this week, we were connecting with another church that we're talking to that's hurting, and it was about to close its doors because of the impact that COVID had on it. And we were just sitting and listening, figuring out if there was a way that we could help them so that they didn't have to shut down. But like there's broad impacts to COVID everywhere. Like, what's something in this season where you feel like extreme loss, either personally or for the church, and something where you're like, yeah, but God is really going to do something awesome?
Yeah. Well, I can start, and I've talked about this in the living room a couple of times where I've led recently, is I really feel, and it must be me, but I feel a sense of loss in my grounding and connectedness to God through my devotional life. And I don't know why that is, because I'm talking with people who are saying, I love this COVID thing. I'm stuck at home. I've been reading the Bible in the morning. Like, my devotional life has never been better. And I yearn for that. You know, I feel like it's harder because there's so many other things going on, and maybe it's the new job here, but I find myself waking up in the morning, and during that quiet time where I've carved out for myself a routine. Normally, that's my time in the early morning, to really sit and abide and pray, that I start thinking about, staffing issues, HR issues, finance things I got to do, emails that because I need to be responsive as part of the service of what I've been called to do here. And I think creating those boundaries has created a real challenge for me to be more intentional and focus on my devotional life than ever before. It's just felt harder, and it's not bad. It's a season, right? And so I'm eager to get back to a season of normalcy, whatever that means. But on the flip side of that, you mentioned this church that, within our presbytery that kind of called us, their pastor is retiring, and they're thinking, well, this COVID thing has created a situation where we really can't worship, and we're not that technically savvy. Like, this church is very blessed with technology savvy and creative people.
Because of Candy.
Because of Candy, right? And boy, you're going to get it too in a few minutes. But, we had a chance to go be the connectional church that we are. You and I had a chance to sit with this small session at this small church that's been in Long Beach since 1923, and are kind of contemplating this decision to shut their doors, to shut down, to close their church. And Chris and I had a chance to sit there with them and talk to them about how we could maybe help. And ultimately, what it came to was a time where we just decided to pray together. And as we were praying together in that little sanctuary, that old little sanctuary in the middle of a neighborhood church, that's been there for almost 100 years in Long Beach, I thought, it's just obvious. God is still working in powerful ways, even in the midst of all this stuff, So we have all this angst and anxiety, and it's difficult, but man, there's so many silver linings that I just keep seeing popping up. And so that's where I try to focus, is on the silver linings and not on the dark clouds, So.
Your hair has become a silver lining since you got here.
And that might be you a little bit, I don't know. Maybe it's Candy, I'm not sure.
What about you, Candy?
Well, no doubt I'm an extreme extrovert, so the loss for me is just not being able to be with people. It's very, very challenging for me to not be able to walk up that patio and just have lots of people there, to be able to visit people in their homes, in the hospital, to be able to gather with people to just share the joys and struggles of life. And it is a challenge. I'm not good at being alone and working alone and behind a computer. And it's not because of tech stuff. It's just that's not me. That's just not how I'm wired.
No one would say that.
So it's just really, really a loss for me. I remember my very first church in Chicago, a woman sent me a plaque and it said, "Everyone needs 7 hugs a day."
It's like my worst nightmare.
I know. I'm not giving you 7 hugs a day, so don't worry. But the idea is that research has shown touch is so important and people really do need to be hugged. They need to be embraced. And of course, the culture and time we're in, there's reservations about that. But all I'm saying is, so now it's been 5 months and I got an email yesterday that said, I miss hugging people on Sunday morning. I miss and it's going to be a while longer. I said, well, we'll make up for lost time when it does come around.
Yeah.
But that's a loss. It's not just the hugs, it's the physical proximity. It's the warmth of fellowship that is up close and personal. It's looking in people's eyes and seeing that they're trying to harass me or whatever they're trying to do. That's a big, huge loss for me. And I know it is for a lot of people. I know for some people, I have a pastor friend who said he is in heaven.
Right. He's an introvert.
Because he's studying the scripture more than he ever has before, and he's got all this time, and go, wow, different strokes, right? But I think the joy for me and the excitement is, even though I'm not a tech person by nature, the possibilities that can come out of this are just amazing. I think the fact that we've gotten away from thinking about the church as these buildings here on this property and have to really function every day away from it makes us realize how much can be done with people engaged. A neighbor wants to come to our backyard church. Can they do that? Can they do that?
Awesome. That's awesome.
We think if in 2 years we have 50 backyard churches where people can just walk across the street and go to church comfortably, safely.
We're going to have a hard time convincing them to put on normal clothes again and come out of their house for church.
Well, there's that too. And then I've seen some of our young families get their kids to put clothes on at all is going to be a challenge once we get back to the campus. So I'm missing the proximity of our faith community, but also just amazed to think about with some creativity and some focus on people other than ourselves, what this could mean for our congregation for the next 10 years. It could be really incredible.
Yep, I agree.
I think it's only good things that could come out of this, if we look at that part of it.
Yeah, I agree. How about you,
Yeah.
Pastor Chris?
I didn't ask the question, so you'd ask me.
But we want to know.
I wasn't prepared to answer it myself.
We weren't prepared either. We didn't
I
have any
know,
time.
but I think the hardest loss in this for me was experiencing, because what happened with the pandemic is it put our country and our churches under stress. It put people under stress. And I've just seen so much negativity in our country and in the media. I know that there's like at this church and everywhere, that's like the messiest place you could possibly start jumping into. But I have extreme disappointment in how we kind of rallied together at first. But now whether you're on the left or the right or no matter what you are, it's an election year and you're just trying to use whatever tools you can to win. Rather than being a country that like really rallies to come and unite together. And with the killing of George Floyd and other issues, there just hasn't been a unified, healthy, Christ-like response that I've been able to observe. Obviously in our church I've been impressed, but it's just been hard to watch. I told many of you, like, you know, during when a lot of that was going down, I was in a room, like in a media fast, just not even eating for a couple weeks, just kind of thinking and praying. And you can just feel the collective pain that's out there. And the pandemic really brought it out. That stinks. I'm really hoping that our church can be a part of the solution to that. And that's a whole other conversation, but we'll go there. And then on the positive side, Big picture, I guess. I hope that we learn from this, that we need to become more resilient. I was sitting with my neighbor in our chairs out in our front yard today. I've got this awesome retired fireman neighbor that is incredible. And we were sitting over there and he was just telling me how the average American lives paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. And can you imagine what would happen to a family living paycheck to paycheck and a pandemic comes? What a disaster. And I know in this particular church, we were in that boat too, of living giving to giving, giving to giving. And I think there's this broader sense that we really need to be prepared for a world where challenges come and not take for granted anything anymore. And I think that's healthy. I think Christians in particular in America have been very spoiled when it comes to the privileges that they have, and they haven't really been tested. But I think we're going to be tested more and more in the future, not only by the global stresses that come, but by shifts in becoming a post-Christendom society. And I think the church really needs to wake up and become more resilient and responsible and anchored in who and what it really is. So those are big picture things. But again, my highest priority, what I'm lamenting and praising, is just my family time. It's the worst and the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. That's my day to day. That's my day to day. Today, I'm sitting outside for 3 hours with my daughter. I got my laptop in a chair, hanging out with my neighbor Craig, and the big drama at my house today was that the ice cream truck did not arrive on time. It's supposed to come Fridays at 3. It did not come, and the epic meltdown at my house because of a late. So that's my world now.
You're stopping and getting ice cream on the way home.
Yeah, so Golden Spoon, I'll see you in 20 minutes. No joke. Strawberry and sprinkles, I know my role. All right, we got one last question here, right?
Well, but we have, before we go, I just got a reminder that speaking of eventually coming back, wanted to let everyone know that in a safe way, with physical distancing guidelines in place, our plan right now is to reopen the office with limited office hours beginning August 3rd. So the office will be open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I know people periodically come by to drop things off. We would encourage those who want to maybe meet with a pastor, meet with one of us to make an appointment. But we're trying to build back toward that sense of we're still here, and there's someone here, and this campus is not, vacant or disbanded. And so the office staff will be in a safe way reopening, if you will, beginning August 3rd.
And what are the office hours again?
9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Not that you need to know.
Yeah, because you'll be gone.
I'll
see you in Advent, right?
I'm asking for our friends and
Thank
members.
you. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday will be our regular office hours. And then, of course, by appointment.
By appointment.
Anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's all coming. We're going to be super creative in our programming, besides Bible studies and golf and hiking and worship and living room and all that stuff. It's really exciting on the family ministry front. We're wrapping up online Vacation Bible School here in this next week. And just last night, I heard there was an incredible program where they had an expert talking about how parents can parent well in the midst of a pandemic. And so that's been going on. We're going to still find creative ways to reach our families in the midst of this. I think we have our very first family worship service on the beach coming up in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So that's exciting. One of the challenges is with We Church here, we can't really allow families with young kids to be here because there's no way to keep them socially distant. Mine would have their grubby fingers running at you real fast. And so it's weird to do church without kids, and that's brutal. But we're trying to do an experiment with a beach family service here in coming weeks and see how that goes. We're going to continue to use the word experiment after everything we do.
Right.
Bible study experiment, town hall experiment, just because that's the season we're in and that's okay. Are we ready for the last question? Because it's already 8 o'clock. We got to end this thing.
I know, we got to end
I
it.
have another text, though. Someone got confused. 9 to 3 or 9 to 1 office hours?
9 to 1. Did I say 3?
You said the first time you said 9 to 3.
Sorry, I'm losing it tonight.
3?
It's 9, 8. Thank you for clarifying.
This really is your bedtime, though.
It truly is, right? Because I got to be up at 4:30, right? So I got to get home and get to bed here pretty soon. It's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. Those will be the normal office hours. Thanks for correcting me.
This is great. It's really nice to have a team of correctors for us. We need that during this whole thing.
We definitely
have fact checkers, which we need.
Hey, at least we know people are paying attention.
That's right.
It is good.
Right?
It is good.
Right.
Last question. How do I get an awesome man bun like Pastor Chris? So this is true story, guys. I've had one haircut since I moved here. I got here, I don't know if you recall, I got here in February, I got here in March, I got my first haircut here, and they gave me like Marine haircut #1, which was like, here's your scalp, good luck. And I was like,
and some sunscreen.
I know, and for a ginger, that's danger zone. And I'm like, this is the longest my hair's ever been and will ever be again, most likely. It's at its maximum length right now.
Really?
It's at its maximum length for me. We'll see where it goes.
How does Jen like it?
I've never asked. I'm not gonna
Whoa,
ask.
we're all getting text messages now. What's happening?
I'm not gonna ask.
Let's vote on that Sunday at the congregational meeting.
We'll add
There's a
that
lot
to
of
the-
flexibility. Though she did come to me because I remember before I became a pastor, I had like this weird summer where her and I were just kind of hanging out, and I grew my hair out, and it was like only this long. And I go, Jen, this is amazing. This will probably be the last time in my life I'm able to grow my hair out now that I have to get a real job and be an adult.
Right.
Nope. Making it happen right here in San Clemente.
We're still working at that adulting thing for you.
I'm working on it too. I need your help. All right. Well, it's 8:04, so it's time.
Yep.
Oh, what does the team?
This is a nice final question from Chris that just came in.
What does the team need from your church family to support you physically and mentally?
I think that came in right as we were all sharing, so it's a nice.
So this for those of you that we love this church, we're pastors. Candy's been with a few different churches. I have been with 2. You've kind of had a lot of experiences, but this is your first formal church. And I know that for a lot of our staff, this is their home, their family, and we're deeply, 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 deeply thankful for the opportunity to serve here and to be a part of what God's doing here in this church. We have ministries like that, but we're particularly blessed. What's unique about this congregation, about you, is you've been through so many things. You take less things for granted, and your generosity and your grace are not just things on a wall that I'm looking at over there. Grace, gratitude, generosity. You really embody that in a meaningful way that impacts the kinds of relationships that we have. And so we're very, very, very thankful for that. And so, Chris, I even saw you on the hike today with Cora, his little daughter, running up that hill. She's amazing. But we're just thankful. The practical way to help is to continue to be in prayer for this church and for its future, to continue to engage with it. One of my fears is that the longer this pandemic goes on, we get decreased engagement, i.e. people are still a part of the church, but they're just distant because it's hard to stay connected digitally forever, we think. So continue to find ways to stay engaged and connected and in prayer with the church. Take advantage of the ministries and interact with people. But above all, view yourself as a minister of Jesus Christ wherever you are. Our job isn't to provide a product that pastors make for the church for you to watch. That's not what we do. Our job is to work with you and alongside you to inspire you to follow Jesus too. And so what that means is you'll take that into your own life and live that out among your family, among your neighborhood, with the people that you interact with. So I really believe that we can be the church and make disciples of Jesus and inspire people to become followers of him, even during a pandemic, as we live that out wherever we are. And so that would be my encouragement. The best thing you can do to support us is continue to inspire us with your own example, because that happens all the time.
It does.
We see so much grace, gratitude, and generosity in our church in the way that we just experience you and get to live among you, and we're just thankful for that. So,
well said.
Candy, you only have 2 more weeks. Will you close us in prayer tonight for everyone that's watching? And
Be happy to. Lord God, thank you for this place that belongs to you, these people that you have called out by name. And I'm so grateful for the privilege of working with them, alongside them. Lord, we have been through so much together, and so we are grateful that you have been with us that whole time, that you have never left us, will not forsake us, that even in this place of a pandemic, like the Valley of Achor or like the Year of the Locust, whatever the catastrophe has been throughout history, you have found a way to meet your people, to provide for your people, and to continue the mission that you have given your people, to be the hands and feet of love and grace, and in Jesus Christ and in his name, to bring people to the wholeness of life that you created each of us for. Lord, we give thanks for this time, for the work of the elders and the lay leaders and these pastors that sit here, who have done so much to bring us through these 4 and 5 months to a place where we really do believe our best days are ahead of us. We are grateful for every talent, every hour of time that has been given. Lord, might we never take for granted that none of that would be possible without your presence and power. And might we continue to give you the honor and glory that comes from everything that happens, resulting from what you have given us, grace, generosity. Might we be grateful in the way not just we speak, but the way we live. For those, Lord, this night who are hurting from disease and pain and suffering, we pray for healing for them, Lord. For those who are hurting spiritually, Lord, who are broken, feel far away, not because of COVID, but because of spiritual brokenness, we pray that you will help us together to draw closer to you and to drag all sorts of people to you with us. Oh, Lord, would you be the one that revitalizes this place, these people, so that the watching world will know you are alive, you are a God of love, and you are able to do things far greater than we could ever, ever imagine. We pray all these things in the name of the one who came and died and rose again so that we might live, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Valley of Achor?
Yeah.
Never heard that dropped before.
Valley
That was
of Achor.
awesome.
Bye, everybody. Have
Good
a good
night.
night.
Good night.
Peace. See you at the congregational meeting. Worship this weekend.
At least.
Peace. Good to see you guys. We did it, John. I know. Well done.
8 minutes or 10
Am I still
minutes
on?
after. Yeah.